In his 2014 State of the Union address, yet again, President Obama spoke out against the gender wage gap, calling it an embarrassment and saying that a woman deserves equal pay for equal work.
And in 2014, it's an embarrassment. Women deserve equal pay for equal work.
Massive applause. It is still widely and officially believed that women are paid 74 cents on the dollar simply because they are women. It is, I think, a testament to women's power that when feminism speaks on our behalf, we tend to forgo skepticism. So let's think about this. Jack and Jane sit side by side. They have the same qualifications, same dedication. They work the same hours per week for the same number of years with the same output. They're identical in every way. And yet the Y chromosome is paid 26% more? You watch television, I ask you. Is the Y chromosome really that popular?
Do you ever wish you could make some things just disappear?
That's cool.
You know, companies will go to great lengths to protect their image and avoid controversy, and yet, even at the risk of enraged female employees, bad press, and potentially devastating wage gap lawsuits, solely for being male, Jack is paid at $100,000, while Jane, solely for being female, is paid $74,000. Companies will cut corners by firing long-time employees just so they don't have to pay pensions. And yet a company will not simply fire Jack, hire Jill, save a whopping $26,000 a year and lose nothing. Despite being illegal and irrational, we're told that this practice carries on all across the country, undiminished, decade after decade. And we believe that. Not surprisingly, the wage gap as presented by feminists is a myth that's been discredited many times. The book, Women's Figures, by economists Diane Roth and Christine Stolba, look into the issue in exhaustive detail. And they find that when every factor, experience, hours worked, job description, and so on, are matched exactly, the so-called wage gap vanishes. But this is not surprising because, quote, if women were paid only 74 cents on a man's dollar, then a firm could fire all its men, replace them with women, and have a cost advantage over rivals. But of course that never happens because, quote, the wage gap is rhetorically powerful, but factually bankrupt, end quote. If not for discrimination against women, why then do men earn a higher average wage? Is there a more credible explanation? Yes, there is. It seems clear enough to me that to the degree women experience far less pressure to take on the role of provider, it just stands to reason that women will be about that much less willing to accept high-risk, high-stress work involving inflexible hours, odd hours, long commutes, social isolation, demand for travel or relocation, commission-only wages, exposure to the elements, filthy, hazardous, and/or arduous working conditions. But in avoiding such working conditions, women sacrifice the higher wages that more often induce men to endure those working conditions. As seen from a politicized male perspective, women sacrifice a little paycheck in exchange for a higher quality of life. Women are privileged in this way because, despite the evident diminishment of male status in our world, nevertheless, there remains still Many men, both willing and able to take on the role of provider, only today they are providers of options. Today's prince provides a woman with the option to pick and choose from amongst full-time, high-stress, high-wage work, full-time, low-wage, low-stress work, part-time work, volunteer work, or full-time parenting. Though women's lives are often enhanced by these options, especially when they afford women primacy in parenting, nevertheless, their paychecks are apt to suffer. Why aren't men accorded, or why aren't men granted the same options to the same degree? I believe it's because men are granted a lesser intrinsic value, which is why a man who goes around advertising himself as a potential house husband to every woman he meets is unlikely to encounter a whole lot of women eager to marry him. We all agree that a woman can't possibly be expected to marry some jobless man still living with his parents. That would be ridiculous, right? But wait, marrying someone without a job still living at home? Hey, isn't that what men have been doing for millennia? In fact, at the very sight of her, haven't starry-eyed men felt a deep need to go out and make something of themselves in order to be worthy of such a woman? Haven't men gone into debt and gone down on their knees to present a diamond as a symbol of their earnest intention to devote their lives to protect and provide for that woman, jobless woman still living with her parents? Clearly, men are not granted equal intrinsic value. I look at the stats, and here's what I see. I see the percentage of adults who are single motherhood, and female-initiated divorce have all risen to entirely unprecedented levels. At the same time, I see that male status is in sharp decline. Coincidence? I don't think so. I've looked into it, and the evidence is overwhelming. Status is, as it has always been, one of the primary cues by which men attract women. As men decline in status and resources, their marital and parental desirability decline in equal measure. Knowing this, men have always been far more willing to do whatever it takes to earn that family-supporting wage, which for men is a kind of minimum wage. And so all 10 of the 10 most hazardous jobs, as well as the bottom 24 of the 25 worst jobs, are all 90 to 100% male-occupied. Men are 16 times more likely to die on the job than a woman. As a general rule, men are more motivated to do whatever it takes to endure any hardship, take any risk, make any sacrifice in the single-minded pursuit of money, because only men are made to feel so socially, sexually, matrimonially, and parentally inadequate without it. What feminism views as male financial power may be reframed as what man does to compensate for being male, to compensate for his lesser intrinsic value. He does this, of course, by acquiring extrinsic values, such as paycheck, fancy car, bank account, job title, and so on. In this way, he offers himself up as a package deal. As seen from a politicized male perspective, men are set in fierce competition with each other in their efforts to perform, achieve, and succeed their way into having what women in general, and beautiful women in particular, are empowered to demand of them. Feminism compares paychecks and calls it the wage gap. But to the degree that men feel a deep need to earn the money through which they gain eligibility in the eyes of women, the wage gap is really nothing more than the intrinsic value gap in disguise. This concludes the intrinsic value gap. I'm Tim Goldich. Thanks for watching. I invite you to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.